Hello again, YouTubers and fellow fellow RC enthusiasts. My channel is basically nitro and gas. Make sure the camera is facing the right direction. But that's why my channel is Nitro Revolution. I do mainly nitro. I do have gas vehicles, Baja, regular Baja, 5T to 5SC, and a DBXL. But this video is basically going to go over, when you're looking at getting into RC, what should you really look at? I'm not going to say what the best vehicle to get would be, but from my perspective, if you're new to it, if you've never worked on motors before, if you just want to get into RC, these are some from my years of being in RC. I've been in RC altogether about 4 years. I've been in the surface category about 2 years, but I've been flying drones and everything for about 4 years, so I've learned a lot. So first thing, what vehicle? And when you look at what vehicle, you're also going to want to look at the power plant. Do you want gas? Do you want nitro? Do you want electric? Most of the time, as a newbie, you're going to want electric, but there are some dangers that come with electric, and I'll get to those. But with electric, they come ready to run. Nickel metal hydride batteries. You have most of the time you have nickel metal hydride batteries, which this is what this is, just without a connector. And you have lipos. This is a 2600. And this is a 5000. So this is a lipo. This is a hard case lipo. I have some soft case lipos laying around somewhere. Right now my bench is a bit of a mess. But a lot of people get into nitro and they have no idea what they're doing. Personally, I started with nitro because I wanted to get that under my belt. I wanted to learn nitro because everything else is easier from there, especially electric. With electric, you have brushed and brushless. Brushed is basically you have 2 wires that go to the battery. I can't remember on these, that's pretty bad. I think these are the 2 that go to the battery. And then you have the 2 that go to the motor. Very simple. And then you have a brushed motor. I couldn't find the 550 size motor that I have. But here is an example of a brushed motor. This is just a 180 size. This is for like 1/16 scale vehicles, 1/18 scale. But this is one that has replaceable brushes. Sort of like with a Dremel. So, a Dremel is a brushed tool. And the brushes can be replaced. Most of the time with a ready-to-run vehicle, it's going to, the brush motor is not going to have replaceable brushes. Basically, once that motor dies, you throw it away, buy another. Now, you have brands out there like Tekin. They have motors that have replaceable brushes. The motor I just showed has replaceable brushes, either carbon or silver. Silver will give you more power, more RPMs, but the brushes wear down faster. Carbon, they last longer, but you don't get as much power or RPM. And then you get to brushless, like this one right here. This is a Castle Sidewinder 7700 kV. I braid these basically to get rid of interference. That's why that's braided, but there are 3 connections to the ESC. Brushless is going to be more expensive than brushed. This setup right here costs $85. It will come with, usually it does not come with a connector, so you're also going to have to decide what kind of connector do you want. Do you want Dean's, which is the T style? Do you want XT60, which that's what I've used ever since I got into it. They've never let me down. And they're sealed. So, and this is the male connector, and there's a female connector that goes into this. And with these, you'll actually have to solder on your own connector, or take it to your local hobby shop and have them solder on a connector at a price. So you may want to look at getting a good soldering iron. Usually, starting off, ones from Lowe's will work, but once you get into it, where you actually try to repair your own ESCs and stuff like that, you're going to need to get a digital soldering iron that won't get extremely hot, where you can control the temperature, and that comes to a needle point. So you can get into very small areas, like, where's that micro? Oh yeah, these micros up here. I changed out all the connectors from low-C to JST. The JST, there's a lot more batteries that come with JST connectors. There's not many that come with low-C connectors. If you go out to buy a battery, there's one. I have 2S and 3S for these vehicles. Sorry if this looks awkward. I'm trying to get the other battery. And these are also lipos. And lipos are very, they are not stable. At a basically what's known as storage charge, they're halfway charged. And usually when you get a lipo, they will be halfway charged. This is about the smallest 3S battery I've ever found. It's 180 milliamp hour Carnegie Nanotech 3S 25 to 40 C discharge. So you're also going to have to learn the terminology, which is C rating, S, which is how many cells. This is a 3S, so that means there's 3 cells, each cell being 3.7 volts, fully charged 4.2 volts. This is about the same size, a little bit bigger. It's 350 milliamp, but it's a 2S. Both of these batteries can fit in this tiny little vehicle. So that's another thing that you're going to have to look at is, honestly, to get the most power out of your vehicle, you're going to want to go with lipos if you're into electrics. And personally, if someone was to ask me, where should I start? I would say electric. It's the easiest. Usually with nickel metal hydride batteries, out of the box, they're dead. They come with what we call wall warts. You plug it in and it takes 4 to 6 hours to charge. That's when you are going to want to get a fast charger. And let's see if I can even find mine. I have several, but right here I have a Radiant Origin. Right here is a Radiant Origin. Doesn't have a connector on it at the moment because I never use it. But this was my very first charger. I've had this thing for over 3 years. Still works fine. But as soon as you get something, a lot of time people will get upset. They'll buy a vehicle at a hobby shop. They'll come back pissed off. I ran my car for 5 minutes and it died and I don't know what's wrong. You have to charge the battery, especially with, like I said, nickel metal hydride. They come dead. Lipos, like I said, they come with what's known as a storage charge. They're usually about 49 to 51% charged. You're going to have to charge that up. You may get a little bit of time out of it, but to get the true power out of a lipo, you need it to be fully charged. So that's a lot when it comes to electrics. Vehicles that you can get would be Traxxas Slash, Traxxas Rustler, Bandit. You've got, with the Traxxas Slash, you've got 2-wheel drive and 4-wheel drive. You've also got the Traxxas Stampede. Personally, I'm not a huge Traxxas fan, but they are great starter vehicles. But then you have to look at, okay, what kind of vehicle do I want? Do I want to race? Do I want to trail run? You also have the Axial SCX-10, the SMT-10, the Bomber, many different vehicles that are, Axials are electric. Most of the time, pretty much all the time, Axials are going to be electric, but they come pretty much all plastic. So you're going to have to upgrade them. The Lynx are plastic. your four link setup. If you don't know what that is, instead of having a leaf spring, you have coil shocks, and there's a triangulated 4-link system that keeps the axle located in a single spot but allows it to move up and down. And so that's another thing that you're going to have to look at is, do I want something that I can go fast with, jump with, or do I have something that I'm going to want to crawl with, just take on trails, walking, having fun, take it back and just drive over stuff? Because honestly, slash stuff like that, that's more of a what's known as a basher vehicle. A basher vehicle is a vehicle that you take out and you just have fun with. And then you get into race vehicles, and we'll get into that in a second. Let me find my list so I get everything. So, what vehicle, and with a vehicle, what power unit? So, nitro, brushless, brushed, or gas. Usually, for a newbie, you're going to want to get electric. Brushless, you're going to get more power and speed. Brushed, less speed, but it would be better for a newbie to learn how to drive. Second, we've already gone over LiPo batteries and nickel metal hydride batteries. You've got milliamp hours, which a lot of people call mAh. That's not what it is. It's mAh. That's how long that's the storage capacity of the battery. How much electricity it can hold. Like this right here is a 350 milliamp hour battery. And the other one, 1000 milliamp hour battery. So this is a 350 milliamp hour 2S. This is a 5000 milliamp hour 2S. You can see the size difference. This is bigger because a lot more energy can be stored in this. And like I said, LiPos are very, very unstable. And I'll get on to chargers and charging for these later on. With nitro, you're going to have to look at fuel. There are a lot of different companies out there that sell fuel. You've got Morgan's, you've got O'Donnell's, you've got, wow, there's so many. VP Racing, Traxxas. Personally, I don't like Traxxas, too much oil content. Honestly, you're not going to want to go with a speed blend, or, well, you can go with a speed blend that contains castor oil, but don't get a blend that contains pretty much all synthetic and a low percentage. Like the fuel I run is, I've said this in many of my videos, O'Donnell's 30% nitro with 8% oil. That 8% oil, a lot of people freak out when they see percentage. It has nothing to do with the percentage of the oil. It's the quality of the oil pack inside of the fuel. And O'Donnell's does a very good job. With Morgan's, you've got the Sidewinder, very good fuel. VP Racing, you've got very good fuel. There's just a lot out there. Do your research. You've also got Dynamite Blue Thunder. Personally, I like to stay with fuel that is made by a company that only does fuel. And then you have nitro percentage. Usually a nitro engine can take up to about 35% nitromethane. That's why these are called nitro vehicles, because they run on nitromethane, a mix of nitromethane and methanol. Methanol being alcohol, basically. And with oil in it. Because they are essentially two-stroke engines, but they do not use spark, they use compression and a glow plug. So, when you get into, and also, with nitro, you are going to have to get a glow plug igniter. Some ready-to-run kits come with a glow plug igniter. Again, they come with wall warts. I have a Hot Shot 2. It's around somewhere, but as you see, my bench is a little busy at the moment, as you can tell. But you're going to have to charge it. My Dynamite, no, not my Dynamite, the Hot Shot 2 Hobbyco Hotshot 2 came with a wall wart, which I quickly wired into. It's a NiCad battery. I wired it to my fast charger, and I can charge it up within about 30 to 45 minutes compared to 4 hours. And then you have the NiMh. This is the best one I found thus far. This is the NiMh lipo glow driver. Has a, I believe it's a 1700 milliamp hour single cell, 1S. So 4.2 volts when fully charged, but it has a voltage regulator. Usually you're going to get about 1.8 volts coming out of this, igniting your glow plug. There's a lot of people that will put this into their vehicle and just start trying to, I've done a vehicle on the different ways to start it. You have roto start that uses basically a drill, a fancy drill that turns it over. And you also have Tiger Drive, which does the same thing. You have pull start, and you have bump start. And then you have the easy start, where the motor and everything is done by a wand, like this. Traxxas, Losis has this kind of stuff. You have this wand. You plug it in, like here is a Jado. You plug it in. With this, I've taken the glow igniter off, but you put it on. The engine's turning over, so you're not having to pull over and over. I put that back in for this. Usually I run nothing but pull starts, but if you get a vehicle with the pull start and it's not igniting, first thing you need to check is your glow plug, and take your glow plug out and put it into your igniter and make sure that it glows. If it doesn't glow, either your glow plug is out, or there's not your igniter has died, or there's something wrong with it. So that's, and you're also going to have to learn break-in procedures with nitro. Most of the time I have found that manufacturer break-in procedures are more worried about getting you out running as fast as you can and not really worried about the life of the engine. And they're worried about it to a point, but say you were to use the Traxxas strategy of breaking an engine, you may get 3 to 5 gallons through it. But with the way I break in engines, I've gone over that in other videos, I can get 10 gallons plus through a nitro engine before you get to the point where the piston and the sleeve has to be replaced. And that's another thing. Electrics, the main thing you're going to have to replace are batteries, lipos. They are expensive. They range from $40, $50 up to $200 plus, depending on what you're looking at. I'm not going to say names, but there's some out there. I will say one name, Max Amps, very good batteries, but you're going to pay for them. I personally like Venom. I said I wasn't going to say names, and I said names. I personally like Venom because if anything goes wrong with that battery that was not your fault, they will replace it for free. You don't have to pay a single thing. They ship it, they pay for it, everything. I've had a 7500 milliamp hour 3S pack die on me. I went through all their rolls. I had a new one within 10 days. Okay, now, also with nitro, you have the tuning factor. If you've never tuned a nitro before, it can be, honestly, I'll be blunt, it can be a pain in the ass. Because usually you're going to have 3 needles. You're going to have the idle gap set screw. You're going to have the low speed needle and a high speed needle. Well, all 3 of these have to be set correctly for that engine to run properly. You don't want it to run too rich or too lean. Too lean is going to get too hot. Too rich is not going to get warm enough. Parts aren't going to expand, and you're going to have premature wear. Now, moving on to gas. That's pretty much everything with nitro. Like I said, after so long with a nitro motor, after so many tanks through it, it will lose compression. Ray A Racing will repinch the sleeve if you would like to go that route, or you can just buy new if you can. Some of my motors can't be bought anymore, so I have, or even the parts, so I have to get them repinched. And basically all that does is size down the inside of the sleeve, so I gain compression again. Now onto gas vehicles. Gas vehicles, yes, very big, very fun. You're going to walk into a shop and you're going to see this gigantic RC vehicle and you're going to be like, I want that one, $1,000. And honestly, thankfully Losi has come out with a electric DBXL. A lot of people like the DBXL. It's a very great, very good platform. And the fact that they came out with an electric version is great for guys who like electric, and honestly, they can't have that loud noise. Here where I live, where I've lived, I've never had a problem with noise, even in neighborhoods. I knew my neighbors and everything like that. They didn't care. So, yeah, it wasn't that big of a deal. But if you live somewhere where noise pollution laws are there, a gas or nitro vehicle probably isn't your best bet. An electric vehicle is going to be your best bet. Even with a silenced pipe, it's still going to be loud. Big block nitros are very loud, especially with the in-bleed pipe. I'm not going to get into all, I'm not going to go that deep into it, but an in-bleed pipe, they're very loud. So you're also going to have to look at your local laws when it concerns noise. And like I said, tuning. And gas, tuning is very easy, not hard at all. But when it comes to working on them, they are very large. There's a lot of parts. There's a lot of screws. It's very easy to get lost. Especially if it's your very first vehicle. Not a good idea to get a gas vehicle because of the amount of parts. You have the engine itself. Then you have the clutch. Then you have the flywheel and the coil. Then you have the clutch and the clutch bell. Then you have the pinion that connects to the clutch bell. Then you have the spur gear, you have the center diff, so on and so forth. And then you have so many other parts. But with two-wheel drive, fewer parts, but it's in a tighter package, like with my Bajas. The engine actually gives it some structural rigidity. When they designed it, they actually designed it so the engine casing actually gave the chassis some structural rigidity by the way the engine mounts and that the chassis mounts to the engine. So yeah, it's in there tight. And especially when it comes to removing pipes, stuff like that, it can be hard, and there's a lot of parts to move out before you even get to the part that you need to fix, like a gearbox for a Baja. Quite a few parts have to be removed to get to a gearbox on a Baja. Okay, so we've gone through that. Working on RC vehicles, you're going to need a good set of tools. Usually when you first get into RCs, you're just going to get the basic tools for the RC that you have. The basics. Maybe 2 or 3 Allen wrenches, a wheel wrench. That's about it. You're going to need more than that. And a good set of tools can cost $50 all the way up to $250 plus. It all depends on what you're willing to spend. I honestly prefer a good set of Allen wrenches. I've learned to use them. You can look at some of my past videos. I've learned to use them very effectively and efficiently and quickly. Also using a drill. If you're going to use a drill, be careful. Always set your clutch on the drill so you don't over tighten something and end up stripping something out. You strip something out, you're going to have to replace that part. So always be mindful of your clutch. And then you have like my Thunder Tiger Ducati 999R. It actually uses a drill to start it. Well, I have to set the clutch because with nitros, because the air-fuel mixture is so close, they can become what's known as hydrolocked. And that is when, because these work on compression, this can happen with gas too, but more likely to happen with nitro, the way that the engine is seated, because it's sort of laying on its side, the fuel can get in there, and we all know that a liquid cannot be compressed. So you're going to try to compress that, but if you don't have your clutch set, it's just going to spin and possibly break the crankshaft journal, wrist pin, connecting rod. There's whichever is the weakest link. So yeah, when it comes to working on them, it all depends on what you're comfortable with, and slashes are easy to work on. Two-wheel drive vehicles are always going to be easier to work on than four-wheel drive vehicles, because four-wheel drive vehicles are going to have more parts. So you're going to have to keep that in mind as well. Now, when it comes to actual racing, first thing a lot of people do is when they first get out there, they're going to get it started and they're going to be really excited. They're going to put their vehicle down in the straightaway, which is usually where there's a balcony up above the straightaway, so you can see the entire track. So you're not standing on the ground. You're actually usually about 20 feet, maybe 15 feet up, so you can see the entire track. Well, someone will put their vehicle down in the straightaway, and then all of a sudden somebody else comes around the curve, floors it, ends up running straight into the back of your vehicle, damaging yours, and theirs gets damaged. And so, yeah, you're always going to want to place your vehicle either in the pit box and start from there, or find where other people are putting theirs. Just a slower section of the track. Start from there. So, yeah, racing. Be careful. There are usually, if you're not the only person out there, other people are going to be watching you and what you're doing. But sometimes people are just focused on their car about getting the fastest lap because they're practicing and they're preparing for a race. I've seen it happen myself with fifth scales, and it's not a pretty sight. Tools to have, like I said, that is really up to the preference. When you get your vehicle, you're going to get the basic tools, and even chargers. It may come with a charger, especially with electrics. But even then, it's not going to be a great charger, so you're going to have to look at getting a better charger. I have 1, 2, 3, 4 chargers myself that I have gathered throughout the years. And with this, I'm just going over surface vehicles. It's a whole nother game when you get into the air, because instead of just working on basically 2 dimensions, you're working with 3, because you're up in the air. You have X, Y, and Z axis, or Z axis, as those from across the pond like to say. So basically with cars, you have yaw and you have forward motion. When you're jumping, yes, they're going to be up in the air, but there's really not going to be a lot of yaw side to side like this. It's going to be trying to get it to land straight. If it's like this, if the nose is up, give it brake to bring the nose down. If it's down, give it gas, and that'll bring the nose up. If it's sideways, well, you can turn the wheels if it's four-wheel drive, and sometimes that can pull you out of being sideways. Now I'm going to get a little bit deeper into lipos. Lipos were, I believe it was the mid 2000s, they were accepted by Roar. Before then, it was always nickel metal hydride. The thing with nickel metal hydride is because they are just one battery, basically, just a bunch of cells in series. Let me see if this one can be seen. Yeah, these are just a bunch of cells in series like this. You just see it just goes in a line, and the little electric pixies come out one end, and that's what powers it. Well, with lipos, you have 3 independent cells which go together to give you your voltage. With nickel metal hydride, as you go through a race or running, you will see a drastic decrease in speed and power. With lipo, it's not going to be as drastic. You'll see it, but it won't be as horrible. And you're also going to have to look at C rating. The higher the C rating, the more amperage it can put out, and also the less voltage lag there is. Voltage lag is when you put load on a battery, say it's 12 volts, as it's a 3S battery, so a 3S battery fully charged is going to be 12.6 volts. Well, say you've used it for a little while and it's at 12 volts, and it's a 35C battery, 5,000 milliamps, so that would be a little over 150 milliamps, 175. So, not milliamps, 175 amps constant. And then you have burst ratings, which is basically how many amps it can do. Like my 7500 milliamp hours, they have a 7500 30C. So that's 200, I'm not going to do the exact math, but that's about 275, 280 constant. But usually a burst rating is going to be almost double your constant rating. Not completely, I mean, don't always go off this. Read what your battery says. If it doesn't have a burst rating, research. That's the biggest thing, is research, research, research. So you know what's going on. And now going back to voltage lag. Voltage lag is when you have a low C rated battery. So when it goes to push out that voltage and amperage, not when it pushes out, when the ESC pulls voltage from the battery and amps are coming, the amps, you have amperage as well. I'm not gonna explain all that in this video, but you'll have what's known as voltage lag, and basically what will happen then is you'll have a 3S battery at 12 volts, and you floor it, you're going to see it drop to, say, 11.5, 11.4 volts. That's when low voltage cutoff is going to save your battery. Always have low voltage cutoff at about, I usually keep mine at about 3.5. I know some people that keep them as low as 3. A LiPo battery is not supposed to go lower than 3 volts per cell. If it goes lower than 3 volts per cell, you have drastically reduced the life of that battery and also possibly the power output. So that's another thing you're going to have to look at, is the C rating of the battery. And there is a certain point where if you get a 90C rated 5,000 milliamp hour battery, that's 450 amps. In a Traxxas Slash, you really don't need that much. Honestly, a 5,000 milliamp hour 20C battery, that's going to give you 100 amps. That would be plenty. I mean, you're not going to pull more than about 100 amps with a Slash. When I had my X-Max and the XLX, the data logging, I never saw more than 148 amps peak being pulled at the ESC. And you can also see the voltage lag with the data logger. Every time you would get on the gas, the voltage drops some because of voltage lag. Sag, excuse me. And so, yeah. Personally, when I'm flying, I actually have again, I can't find it. It's around here somewhere, but I use low voltage meters. They beep. They put out a very loud, obnoxious beep when it hits that certain voltage. So if I give it full throttle and I hear that beep, I stop, I change batteries, or I recharge batteries. With nitros and gas, that's the thing I love about nitros and gas. You can run them all day. Just make sure the tank is full and you have enough fuel to get you through all day. Right now, my DBXL, I'm getting some work done on it. I'm actually not going to go with 30.5 cc. I don't like how much stress. I saw how much stress it put on the bearings and the seals to the point that I had to replace them. I've never seen that happen with a 29 cc motor, but a 30.5 cc has a stuffed crank. So it's basically a stroker motor. So there's more torque and just more pressure being put on the bearings, the crankshaft bearings. And then after all this, once you get a car, you're also going to have to buy a charger. What charger? Personally, if you're starting, the iMax B6 AC version 2 is a very good charger. I have one myself. That was, I believe, my second charger. I also have a Venom Pro Duo. Don't really like it, but it works. But also with the B6 AC, you want to make sure that it is a authentic B6 AC version 2. It is such a popular charger that Chinese companies will copy it. The internal transformer, the reason it's B6 AC is because it has an internal transformer. Versions, the internal transformers are smaller. The electronics, transistors, resistors, all that good stuff, just not as good a quality. So always make sure the stuff you're buying is authentic. If not, contact the person you bought it from, get your money back, send it back, and get an actual one. Once you really get into it, you got high-tech chargers, dynamite chargers, many different name brand chargers, and like I said, the Venom Pro Duo, and they've also got the Quad that can charge 4 chargers. And then you have power banks, which usually a charger just going off wall voltage, you're only going to see about max 10 amps going to one battery or to one channel. If it's a duo, that means you have 10 amps that you have to split between those two. So 5 amps to each, or 7 amps to one, and 3 to another. And then, or you can get a power bank, and they are a little expensive. And then you can get upwards of 100 amps. And that's more for racers, in my opinion, so they can charge their batteries quickly. You also have a C rating when it comes to charging. If it's 1C and it's a 5,000 milliamp hour battery, you charge it at 5 amps. 5,000 milliamps is 5 amp hours. So a milliamp, MAH is milliamp hours. And that's, like I said, the amount of energy stored in a battery. How long is it going to go for? 5,000 milliamp hour battery in a slash, you're going to get about 30 minutes of runtime, maybe more, depending on a C rating, because C rating does have some things to do with how long it'll run for. Less voltage sag, you'll be able to run a little longer. But like I said, with gas, yes, a lot more parts, a lot more things you can get to make more power. Engines, you got the Bartolone 46cc, that's a $800-900 engine. I believe it's ALX. They have come out with 2-cylinder engines that you can put in the Bajas of over 100 cc's. That is insane for a RC car that only weighs, if you take the motor out, you're looking at about 20-25 pounds. DBXL, 4-wheel drive, more parts, you're looking closer to 30 pounds. My DBXL, with everything I have on it, it's about 36-38 pounds. Dry, wet, getting close to 40. Wet meaning with fuel in it, because I've replaced a lot of the plastic stuff with metal. So when it comes to getting a new vehicle, when you're wanting to get into RC, these are a lot of things that you're really going to need to take into account. A lot of people say that electrics are cheaper than nitro in the long run. Not really. Look at the price of lipos, then the charger. You're going to have to replace your lipos after a certain amount of time. Well, with nitro, you have to buy fuel. You also have clutches that are going to go out. You have air filters that you have to clean. So there's more maintenance with nitro. Also gas. That's why I personally like them. There's more that I can do. I like working with my hands. But as someone who doesn't have time to work on things all the time, honestly, electric would be the best for you. Especially if you want to get a fifth scale roller. There's a lot of companies out there that make conversion kits. that allow you to put a brushless motor in it. You have a lot of companies now that are coming out with 5th scale brushless motor kits that can take 8S power and up. MGM, Alien Power, stuff like that. And then you got motors, Poseidon motors, Castle. There's, like I said, you have to do your research. That is the biggest thing. Do your research. Don't just go out, buy something, get home, and then get mad because it didn't work as you were hoping. Well, you didn't do your research, did you? And that's pretty much the biggest thing when it comes to me and anything I have ever gotten. As soon as I'm told of, like when I go to trade something, when someone offers me something, the first thing I do, okay, what's wrong with it? Okay, not that all that much. Now let me give me about half a day to research it. Let me read up about it. Most of the cars nowadays I've done a lot of research on already. So yeah, but when it comes to nitro vehicles, a good nitro vehicle to start out with, depending if you're wanting on-road, off-road, four-wheel drive, a good nitro vehicle to start off, in my opinion, would be a T-Max. It's a tough vehicle. It is a proven vehicle. It's been around for 20 years. It's off-road. If you're wanting on-road, I would honestly have to say probably a RS4, HPI RS4, Team Associated. There's many different companies out there that make vehicles. You've also got Serpent, X-Ray. X-Ray makes excellent vehicles. You got Losi, TLR, Team Losi Racing, Tamiya, however you want to pronounce it. I'm trying to think of everything I have name brand wise. I mainly have more HPI than anything else. I have a Armor Raider. This little thing is mental when it comes to power. This has a 3S zippy lipo in it, 5,000 milliamp hour. It's the long thin version that goes in a Revo, and it's an insane little vehicle. And I would compare, and it has a brushless motor. I never get brushed motors. I don't like brushed motors at all. Even with crawlers, I always go with a censored brushless setup. Usually a lower kV, like a Rock 412 1200 kV. That will give me a lot of torque, but not a lot of wheel speed. But I can gear to get extra wheel speed, and I'll usually run that with a Mono Max Pro on 3S. It would give me a top speed of about 8 miles per hour. So I would have good wheel speed, but I'd also have a lot of low-end torque and no what's known as cogging. Cogging is when you go to get on the gas and it just sort of jerks along because it's not censored. Castle has finally come out with censored motors, and that's sort of a godsend to a lot of people that love Castle equipment. But this has a hobby lean setup in it, very simple. It's got the brushless, so brushless runs on a 3-phase setup. It basically sends pulses to these 3 motors, to these 3 wires right here. And that's how it spins the motor. You can't just connect 1 or 2 of these wires to a battery and expect it to turn. That's not how they work. With a brushed motor, that's how they do work. You can just take the 2 wires coming off of it, put it to a battery, and it'll start spinning. And the closest car that I would compare this to, that would be nitro, would be the Traxxas Jado. The Jado has a 3.3. It is very light. This is more known as a desert buggy. Very fun. This is more known as a stadium truck. This has the Traxxas 3.3 in it. It's insane with power. Very fun. Very tough. And if you want to get into nitro, this is great. Honestly, start with a Rustler first, because this is probably Traxxas most. They put a skill level on every vehicle. With the X-Max, they put the highest skill level. Honestly, not really. You don't need a lot. It's electric, but it is expensive. And with this, you have a nitro motor, so you have to break it in correctly. You have to tune it correctly. You're also going to have a heat gun to watch the temperature. And when you watch the temperature on a nitro motor, you point the temperature gun directly down at the glow plug. So you know exactly what the temperature is at the at the combustion chamber. You don't want to put it at the side of the engine because that's not going to give you an accurate temperature of the engine. This thing's very fun. It does come with plastic drive shafts. That's the one thing I really don't like about Traxxas. Most of their stuff is plastic, and personally that's a problem for me. But I do have quite a few. I have a Jado, a T-Max, 3 Revos. I'm sure I have more than that, but that's just what I can think off my head. Fun vehicles, and honestly, even if you're looking at, if you're looking at an electric vehicle, look at getting a nitro roller and get the conversion for a T-Max. From my personal experience and from what I've seen, I admin several groups on Facebook, so I'm always seeing posts of people that have had problems. I will say the X-Max Gen 2 is tougher, stronger gearing, stronger gears, just overall better parts. But I traded my first X-Max for a DBX, a highly modified DBXL. I've never broken a single part except the engine has gone out because I did run it harder than I should have to get more power, higher top speed. I ran it too lean when it came to the oil mixture. Ran 32-to-1. I should have ran it 28-to-1 or a little richer. So now I'm having to rebuild the engine. That's another thing when it comes to gas vehicles. Are you willing to build a new engine, or are you going to want to buy a new engine? Because a new engine, completely built, you're looking, a good one, you're looking about $400. A race one, you're looking close to $1,000. Like I said, the O'Neill Brothers, the OBR 46cc. I have a buddy that just got one and put it in his 5T with pipe and everything, so he could just drop it in his 5T. I believe it cost him $850. So that's the price of a fit. A lot of time, like I said, electric. If you have a decent amount of time, nitro, gas. Tuning nitro can be a pain in the butt. But just going back over things. What vehicle and what power unit? With electric, you got brushless. And then you have to worry about batteries and a charger. With nitro, you got to break in, tuning, fuel, glow igniter, tools to work on it, maintenance, clutches, clutch bells, and with clutch bells, the pinion is on the clutch bell. So when you get a clutch bell, you also have to make sure you know what what gear. Oh crap! What gearing it is, not only the tooth size, which if it's what pitch, and also tooth count, because you don't want to go too high or you overheat your engine. Gas, very simple, but a lot of parts. Parts are big with fifth scale, so they're going to cost more. And again, tuning. Anything with a internal combustion engine, there's going to be tuning. And then again, coming back to working on them. Tools. What tools are you going to get? How much are they going to cost? Personally, anybody that's watched my channel, I have lots and lots and lots and lots of parts, lots of tools in just 2 years. I'm actually talking with someone right now to get a Schumacher Menace 3-speed. And then, if you want to get into racing, electric or nitro, honestly, electric is not going to outrun a nitro on a track. A lot of the time, an electric will overpower the track, while a nitro is not going to put down so much power that it will overpower the track. It will just be able to go and not spin its wheels. I've seen over and over again going to a track, oh, my electric is faster than your nitro, blah, blah, blah. And then we decide to do 5 laps. My nitro ends up beating them, and then the excuses start. Well, I don't have the right gearing on here. I didn't tune it right. There is tuning with electric, especially brushless. You have timing, throttle punch, a lot. Also, with all this, you also have a radio. Sure, they come with radios, but they're not all that great. What do you want? Spectrum, Airtronics, FlySky, Futaba. There's so many questions to be answered, and only you can answer them. Tools to have, been over that. Lipos, been over that. Very unstable, but they have the best power density to weight than any other battery out there right now. And there are scientists working on actually putting the liquid electrolyte that are in lipo batteries into plastic to make them stable. And last thing, chargers. So if you get an electric, not only are you going to have to worry about the vehicle, you're going to have to get a good battery, charger, tools. If your tires go bad, you're going to have to get new tires. You're going to have to learn how to glue tires onto the rim. So you're going to have to get a good cleaner to clean the bead of the tires and clean the rim itself. Do you want to tape your tires so they don't balloon? Again, a lot of questions. So that's it. Honestly, hope I helped. I know that's a lot of questions, but these are questions that you're really going to want to ask yourself when you're considering getting into the RC hobby. So yeah, that's it. Thanks for watching, and till next time, I will say this: within 22 hours, I'll be giving away the DBXL center skid. After that, a sharper image DX01. I'm going to go buy one, do the same thing over again. So keep watching, subscribe if you like what you see, like if you like this video. Please don't give me a thumbs down. Nobody enjoys those, but there you go. Thanks for watching. Peace.